The primary purpose of the event was to raise awareness of Codex Alimentarius, which is a piece of global directive that very, very few people are aware of. They're certainly not aware of the potential implications that it has. And although Codex Alimentarius Commission is not exactly established law, what it does is it establishes global guidelines which are then enforced by the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, and effectively become regulation and directive, and therefore the other trade associations and trade areas like the European Union, the Asia Pacific, the League of African Nations are all expected to apply. And the Codex Alimentarius Commission tried to implement the Codex Regulation and Directive in the US back in 1994. But fortunately, the people actually realised what was occurring. The campaign was actually led by the Whole Food stores. It's a chain of stores that runs right across America, and obviously by the name they sell Whole Foods. They realised the threat, and so they campaigned and got people to hit the streets, right to their congressmen, right to their senators. And these people realised that if they didn't do something about the Codex threat, then potentially they were going to be not elected next time round. So a piece of legislation was introduced called the DSHEA legislation, the Dietary Health Supplement Education Act. Sorry, Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, in 1994, which effectively put a ring fence around the natural food and natural health markets in the US. And so the Codex Commission basically went down and just turned their attention to Europe. And what we're seeing now is really the fruits, for want of a better word, of the Codex Alimentarius Commission's campaign to apply this regulation and directive throughout Europe. And they've worked on the basis that none of the European nations talk to each other, so they're pretty much right there, and that they can get all this stuff in through the back door. And to put it in a nutshell, their long-term objective is to effectively eradicate all organic farming, all natural farming, so that all farming is controlled by the likes of Monsanto and Cargill. And in the worst case scenario, we'd have a situation like exists in Iraq right now, where 2 years ago the US government was manipulated effectively by Monsanto into forcing the fledgling Iraqi government to introduce law which prevented the Iraqi farmers from saving their seeds. So the Iraqi farmers had to purchase seeds from Monsanto, which effectively had the Terminator gene built in. Therefore, obviously, the crop that grows does not produce seeds which could be used. So every year, the farmers have to produce their next batch of seeds from Monsanto. I mean, this is completely outrageous. You know, farming has been on this planet, in a recorded history at least, for the last 5,500 years. And in here we see an extremely pernicious attempt to completely wipe out all the natural farming techniques, and all food will effectively come from genetically modified crops. And of course this has tremendous impact on the health of people. I mean, basically they're eating shit, and so their bodies will go to shit, which of course has an immediate impact on the health industry. So that's why Codex also targets the natural health industry, because instead of enabling people to eat the crap that comes out of the GM crops and supplement their diet with natural supplements, with natural vitamins, then along comes Big Pharma and says, no, you don't want any of that natural stuff. In fact, not only don't you want it, we're not going to let you have access to it. You need to take these pharmaceuticals. So what you end up with is a crazy situation where people are sick from a very, very early age in their life because of a poor diet. Of course, it's compounded by the forced vaccinations that are occurring in many states in the US now. It's not legal for a parent to withhold or stop their children having the series of vaccinations. So the children get sick. You know, they go along to the doctor gives them pharmaceuticals. It destroys the immune system of the body. So what you have is a situation where, ironically, although people may live longer, their quality of life, of course, is dramatically reduced, and they're totally reliant on pharmaceuticals. So guess who wins out? The pharmaceutical companies.
Is this cycle of sickness, is this just corporate greed? Is it just all about money, or is there another agenda going on here, in your opinion?
It depends on who I'm talking to. certainly on one level, there's no question, it's corporate greed, absolutely. And this is indeed very well documented in this excellent book, which is now 24 years old, called Corporate Crime in the Pharmaceutical Industry. I mean, it is without any shadow of doubt the most corrupt industry. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not totally anti, the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, if it wasn't for the pharmaceutical industry, my 5-year-old son wouldn't be here now. But, it's everything in balance, and it's about choice. What we have is the corporate pharmaceutical industry trying to completely eradicate choice, and they want to be able to dominate. And the reason they want to be able to dominate is because it's mega bucks. I mean, back in 2002, the top 10 pharmaceutical companies, the profitability of those top 10 companies was greater than the profitability, the combined profitability of the other 490 companies in the Fortune 500. I mean, this is big, big business. And to just put it in perspective, the chairman of Pfizer in 2002, his compensation package in that year was $74 million. I mean, this is obscene. It is completely obscene. But that's corporate greed. And the other level is, without any shadow of doubt, there is an attempt, and it's going to be very difficult to perhaps give this any perspective in a short space of time, but there is an absolute attempt to completely shut down the possibility of any human being making a spiritual connect. I mean, we have long known about the spiritual connect that kicks in around about the age of 40. Which we in the West call the midlife crisis, but in the indigenous peoples they call it the midlife opportunity. And it's an opportunity to see the world from a completely different perspective. And there are certain fundamental requirements, physiological requirements, it would seem, for that to happen. And these guys want to make sure that that physiological trigger effectively is neutralized, and that people are kept locked into the physical, secular, empirical world of slavery, financial slavery, consumerism slavery. I mean, a consumer society needs consumers, and it needs relatively healthy consumers, healthy enough to do the work so that they can earn money so that they consume, but not that healthy that they don't need pharmaceuticals.